Hello there, and welcome to day 86 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. Today covering the romantic Italian-American queer narrative, Call Me By Your Name. And this is a very powerful and transnational film to talk about. It is going to be quite a heavy one to jump into. So before I start, I want to first give a disclaimer, which is I am a heterosexual cis male, and I'm going to be talking quite extensively about queer reading and narrative and LGBTQ plus themes, and I'm aware that I am going to be talking about things like sex and sexuality, and I'm cautious that I could be walking into a minefield because, you know, as much as I have read and of course seen quite read around and seen queer narratives, that my understanding is still rudimentary, and so therefore if I do get things wrong or misinterpret or misunderstand, then I apologise, but I do really want to sort of discuss these themes and ideas because it's the heart of this narrative. With that in mind, so this is the 2017 Luca Guadagnino film, and adapted from what's his name? Andre Aciman's novel of the same name. And it's a very powerful romance. This is the kind of story that, I mean, I know that Guadagnino wanted to explore romance on a universal level and transcend sexuality and explore it in a way that, as he said, different people of different generations and would be able to understand and relate to, and it really does achieve that. There is something quintessentially European about this. The style, it reminds me a lot of Stealing Beauty, and of course that's also set in Italy and has that same soft, romantic feel to it, not just in your characters but in the very landscape itself. There's something, I mean, I was falling in love with Italy all over again, because it's just, there's something about it that I would describe as Italian rural porn, where the velvetiness of it, and it's supposed to have the feeling of that endless summer that one should always have, that almost anyone should have at some point, you know, where it just feels, I don't know the term for it, but there's it in your core, you just see it and feel it, and you can sense it with all, you know, smell and taste, and you just relate to it on a sensory level, and there's something very visceral about it. And I think the landscape just creates this perfect bed for a romance that really is very powerful. And, you know, between Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet, who, you know, their chemistry is so powerful in this, and as I say, that there is a lot of queer narrative to it, that I noticed that there's something much more non-verbal in films that explore same-sex love, that and of course that possibly comes from a background of obviously a history of people of same-sex interest wanting to be able to communicate their desire for each other in a way that's safe and tentative. And so in terms of in cinema terms, you get, and I remember this explicitly with Carol and with Brokeback Mountain, that you get that sense of more in these kinds of narratives than you would in a heterosexual narrative, that sense of people communicating their desire towards each other and just slowly opening up in a completely, or well, not completely, but almost completely non-verbal way, to the point where that in this case, when the characters finally do express their romantic feelings towards each other, it almost comes as a shock, because you've spent so long in the film with them almost playing coy, and the style of cinematography is playing coy as well. When Elio, Timothée Chalamet's character, expresses in a verbal way, although even then it's layered in subtext, his interest in Armie Hammer's Oliver, the camera work itself is panning and tilting away to almost coyly look away, look back, look upwards, and the dialogue is still going ahead, but we're sort of looking all over the place to almost, like, oh, should we be observing this? Maybe not. Maybe, and there's something quite playful about it, and I think playfulness is really the especially in the first half of this film, the idea of two people who, a 17-year-old who is still exploring himself and his identity, with an older man who seems much more confident, but being an American comes from a much more hostile environment when it comes to same-sex love. And I know, yes, that's universal, that's not specific to the US, but there's something much more guarded about Armie Hammer, that he knows the language of how to communicate his sexuality in a more traditional way, like I say, non-verbal, very much about the touching and the showing interest in someone without explicitly showing it in a way that he would be able to retract it if it went wrong. Whereas with Elio's case, it's much more him, coming from this seemingly open and liberal background, where and in an environment where this is just part of him trying to explore and understand himself, and so when he expresses that feelings towards Oliver, it's quite a shock, because it's taken in a way that's like, oh, should we be saying this aloud? Maybe we shouldn't be communicating this. And as I say, that up to that point it had all been playful. It wasn't entirely clear who liked who first, or whether one's teasing the other, and of course they're showing interest in each other's hobbies. And you do get that suggestion of fluidity in the whole thing, where Elio starts a romantic relationship with a girl called Marzia, and there's something about it that suggests that it's not inauthentic in his case. He does like her, but it's not the passion and desire that he has towards Oliver. It's not that same overwhelming, consuming sense of desire. Of course, desire being a prominent theme, because it Guadagnino's this is the conclusion of his trilogy of films that he calls his Desire trilogy. I haven't seen the other two, so I don't know too much about that, but I can see what he means by the idea of that, because it's about desire that transcends meaning and exploration, that anyone can relate to, and yet you might not be able to verbalize, because it's so in the raw emotion of it, and so in the sense of someone just feeling a passion that they can't quite express, and yet desperately need to find a way to express it. And as I say, that transcends sexuality, because it is something that we should all feel as people. And as I say, it harkens back to that dreamlike quality of youth. And, you know, though not everyone has an experience of going to like a Mediterranean hot country and, you know, having a summer that would never end, having an experience related to that, somewhere where as you close your eyes and you can feel this period in your life where you got to explore and experiment and find out who you are as a person, you know, that sense of identity is, you know, it's a universal feeling. And I think that's what Luca Guadagnino wants to express and explore in this film. And beyond that, I mean, it, you know, he states that it's a film about family, and I think that's another part of it that's really powerful. That Michael Stuhlbarg plays his father Samuel, and his mother is Amira Kaza, who plays his mother Anella, and they're such prominent and powerful figures in his life. And the beauty of this film, and the thing that makes it so, I don't know if I could say it makes it European, but it makes it so untraditionally non-Hollywood, is that there isn't really a conflict. The entirety of it's internal. That it's not like it's a film about judgmental parents trying to prevent this socially unacceptable love. That it's just about people living their day, but it's not slice of life. There is an arc to it, but the arc is entirely internal. In that respect, I think back to Carol. Now, Carol did have certain external obstacles and challenges more familiar. But as I say, there's something very European about this, where there isn't, and I know that was something else that Guadagnino wanted to do, is to create a narrative where it's not about love triangles or people trying to prevent two people being together, that it is about someone going on a journey of self-discovery and understanding. And I think there's something very powerful about that. And again, European, and I really want more cinema like this, where, you know, and this is something hopefully I'll be able to watch more of over the course of this series. Films that aren't about external obstacles trying to prevent someone being themselves, or just doing whatever they are seeking to do, but more about someone just going on a journey and just sort of getting a chance to explore and decide who they want to be in the world. And I think, like I say, the parents have a really powerful relationship with Elio, and it really creates what I imagine, and again, this feeds back into the LGBTQ experience, where I imagine this is the sort of situation where a lot of people who coming of age of that community would, it's the romantic ideal of how you'd want your parents to be. I'm very critical of in media of the representation of the accepting parents in for an LGBTQ child, not you know in itself, but the way it's starting to be represented is one that I'm very troubled by, insofar as, and I've noticed this a couple times in TV and film, the idea of the I know parents. And it was done well once before, which was in Glee. I actually do think Glee, as a TV series, for all its flaws, for everything that went wrong in it, the one thing it did do was the idea of a parent saying, you know, a child coming out and a parent immediately saying, yep, I always knew, and I accept, in a very, really quite simple way. Whereas, but unfortunately, it's created this trend where that's being done, and it's been significantly less authentic, particularly in American media. because I think it creates an unfair standard in real world terms, because like I say, as a cis heterosexual person, who I hope that if were any of my children to come out as LGBTQ plus, that that I would, my reaction would be the best equivalent, the best reaction a parent can have to that, the most understanding and sympathetic and open experience of that. But the I know narrative, like I say, creates an unfair standard where if you are a parent of in the real world of a child who comes out and you weren't aware, that somehow creates a failing in you, and I don't like that, because I think it's like I say, it sets a precedent. If I'm comparing it to another LGBTQ plus film that did it again, I thought did it really well. Dear Simon, I thought gave a much more authentic representation of that, where there's a parent who didn't know, has to process it, comes back and says, I completely understand and accept, and which I think did it much more authentically. But laying all that groundwork, I have to say, the way the conversation, and unfortunately this is a third act thing, so I am veering towards spoilers, although I will try and avoid it. The conversation between Elio and Samuel, his father, towards the end of the film, is actually possibly one of the best scenes in the film. And the way that Michael Stuhlbarg performs that speech is, I'm surprised he didn't get an Oscar nomination for that, because there's something so understanding, empathetic, heartfelt and raw about the way he expresses himself to his son, that it's something that you just go, wow, this is up there as top shelf performance, and this is in a film of top shelf performing, actors who are just giving such powerful performances, and particularly in your leads, Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet, both of whom give these genuinely phenomenal performances. This is definitely up there with those two. As I say, they I don't want. I've in this series I've avoided significantly trying to talk too much about people's private lives and actors and directors and scandal. But I am aware that I can't completely ignore certain topics, and so when I say Armie Hammer is genuinely phenomenal in this, I genuinely think he is a powerful actor, and he gives such a charismatic, rich performance as someone who is as this gay or bisexual character. It's sort of left ambiguous exactly what that is, where he lies in that, but also as someone who is Jewish and trying to express that. I think it's, he gives his best performance. Now, saying that, I'm aware of at this particular time, 4 years on, that he's currently, his name is sort of mired in scandal and trouble right now that I don't want to go into. But putting that aside, I think this is possibly his best performance, and I think he is such a powerful actor in it. And I think, I think he genuinely gives something in this that I don't think I've seen before or since from him. And Timothée Chalamet, of course, phenomenal, and that's been acknowledged universally that this was the launch pad for him, because people saw him in this and realised how powerful and how ranged a performer he is, particularly. And again, third act towards the ending, without spoiling it, towards the end, the range of emotions he gives is so great that he is an actor who we should be seeing for up there as someone who should be time and time again giving these Oscar caliber performances, because from this film alone you can see that he can. And yeah, this is a beautiful, nuanced, powerful film, and yet, like I say, there's no major conflict. It's actually quite gentle and rich, and it's beautiful. It is genuinely a beautiful film, and I can see why it won Best Adapted Screenplay, because it's written phenomenally. But the look of it and the style is so romantic, and it makes me want to go back to Italy and practically move there, because I genuinely think the setting is it's something else. Yeah, phenomenal film. I'm really glad I saw it. I don't think there's anything else I have to say. Sorry, I had one of those moments where I'm genuinely quite overwhelmed by how good this is, and the fact that I didn't... I missed out on seeing this in the cinema, and I think that was a shame. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe to the channel. If you click that little bell, you'll get notifications of when new videos are uploaded. But if you also follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, I also tweet the videos, the links to the videos on there. Thanks again for joining me. Take care.